Is Rise of the Ronin the next big PlayStation hit? Find out only on VGC. We've recently had the opportunity to play the opening couple of hours of Rise of the Ronin, the new PS5 game from Team Ninja, and here's how we feel about it. Plus, stick around till the end for your questions answered. Rise of the Ronin feels like a lot of other games. During the first few hours that we were able to cover in this preview, we were reminded of Assassin's Creed, Ghost of Tsushima, Nioh, which we'll let them away with, and most glaringly, Sekiro. While Rise of the Ronin isn't a Souls game per se, and it sails much closer to something like the aforementioned Ghost of Tsushima, it's impossible not to be reminded of that FromSoftware classic while you're in combat. Rise of the Ronin's combat is all about parrying and posture. Every character you fight will have a posture bar that's separate from their health. Depleting this will open the enemy to a deadly blow that will do a lot of damage or instantly kill some of the lower level enemies. The fastest way to get rid of this posture is to accurately parry incoming attacks. Parrying normal attacks will prevent you from taking damage and reduce a small amount of the enemy's posture. When the attack glows red and the enemy charges you full of bloodlust, you have the option of dodging it and avoiding the potentially huge amount of damage that attack will do, or you can attempt to parry it, which will more often than not instantly open the window for a devastating blow. Combat is fun and it's satisfying to get into the rhythm of taking down multiple enemies. The only issue we faced early on is reading what the enemy is going to do. Outside of the two different colours differentiating what kind of attack is going to be used, there's little in the way of telegraphing these moves. In practice, this means that even for the weakest enemies, you're likely going to have to watch them perform their attacks a few times before you get the patterns down. This is fine for huge bosses, but it really interrupts the flow of fighting mobs and ruins the cinematic feel that the rest of the game manages to achieve. Like Nioh, enemies in the game can be weak or resistant to specific fighting styles, which can be easily switched between. This largely impacts how much damage those devastating blows do when you're whittling down the composure of an enemy. It's deeply frustrating when you waste a deadly blow on a resistant enemy and it does virtually no damage, but this is there to teach you that the player should always be changing weapons and modes of attack. Speaking of, the game has some ranged weapons, namely bows, guns and shuriken. Guns are used more in the Bloodborne sense as a means to stun enemies and not a way to speedrun the game with an AK-47. The bow and the shuriken are fun to incorporate into a stealth playstyle, something that we've implemented routinely during our early hours. Rise of the Ronin is an open world game spanning several different districts of Japan. The game is set in the pre-Tokyo region of Edo. The game explores factions of pro and anti-shogunate imperialists set against the backdrop of a colonizing American faction attempting to establish political ties in the region. You begin the game on a mission to reconnect with a lost companion following a mission gone wrong, which is all we'll say because this intro mission is very cool. Once you're let loose on the open world, you're able to explore freely, doing odd jobs for local people, which will gain you favour in that prefecture. There are multi-stage side quests, and there are things as simple as stopping a roadside disturbance, which can be resolved via talking, or by the end of your blade. The open world feels like it has a lot to do, even if the towns themselves feel more like movie studio backlots, with little of the hustle and bustle that one might expect from a modern open world game of a similar size. Similarly, the visuals aren't stellar. The game offers 3 graphical options, prioritising framerate, visuals and ray tracing respectively, but because this is a Team Ninja game, there really should only be one option. In practice, this means sacrificing a lot of visual flair for a rock solid framerate. The game is lit beautifully, and there's already been several well-staged fights against beautiful, vibrant backdrops, but when you get up close to character models and buildings, things start to look rather last gen. To get around, you're given a glider that can be opened at will. You've also got a grappling hook, which when used in conjunction with the glider, can send you essentially flying across the busiest areas of the map. We hope that later in the game there's some kind of upgrade that allows you to do something similar in wooded areas, as the domesticated areas are few and far between in this early stage. As for now, you're largely relegated to horseback riding when you're far away from the towns. So far, while we're enjoying our time with Rise of the Ronin, we're waiting for the moment that it really stands out. Other than some dated looking visuals, every element of the game so far is fine to great, but nothing so far is best in class. But there's plenty of room for that to happen, especially considering the size of the game and Team Ninja's legendary pedigree. Now let's get to your questions. I asked on Twitter for your Rise of the Ronin questions, and embargo permitting, I will answer them. Andrew Marmo, can you ride A boat. I have not ridden a boat thus far, and I'm not sure you can. The opening mission takes place on a large boat, but in terms of the kind of, you're set in a kind of coastal area, I don't know if you can go on boats. So I don't know. Does the loot system from their other recent titles return? Now, having not played Wukong terribly recently, I can't specifically remember if it's exactly like this, but you have 2,000 slots for loot. You're picking up weapons and armor and clothing off of enemies, and you can change the look of those weapons and clothes without changing the stats. So that's essentially how the loot system works. You're getting really high tier loot almost instantly, so the loot system doesn't seem especially fleshed out personally. Nova007 asks, does it still have the Souls-like difficulty of their previous games, or is them dipping a toe into the more accessible type of gameplay seen in other open world games? Does the AI of party members function like they did in Wukong, or have they adjusted / improved it? So first question, yes, it's hard. It's not Souls hard. It's easier than Wukong so far, I would say, but it's harder than your typical open world kind of mass market appeal game. The AI party members, look, the AI party members are pretty clunky. I didn't delve into it much in the preview because I don't think that the missions that we have access to really show it off, but in those opening missions it has been slightly clunky. They'll attack when an enemy is attacking, so it throws off your timing, but that's a wait and see kind of situation as we get to harder missions in the game. Thank you for your question. Ricardo Diaz asks, does it feel like a Ubisoft-ish game where you have a bunch of icons in your map for you to clear out? So the map is large and there are a lot of icons. There seems to be a lot of side missions, I will say. Thank you for your question. High Def Productions asks, is it more Sekiro or Ghost of Tsushima or Nioh or Assassin's Creed combat-wise? I would say it's somewhere between Sekiro and Ghost of Tsushima. It's Ghost of Tsushima like in terms of the timing required, but Sekiro in terms of kind of you're responding to specific enemy flags or tells. It's closer to Tsushima than it is Sekiro. Sekiro is kind of untouchable at this point. Coco asks, is the character creator as deep as other Team Ninja games or a bit more limited given that we're playing as an actual character now? It seems pretty deep. You have, at the start of the game, you have to make 2 different characters and the options are pretty wide. I also appreciated that I don't know if this was in previous games, but you can combine hairstyles, so you can give someone a specific kind of bob and then give them a fringe and then put a ponytail on it to make your character look unique. But yes, the character creator seemed great. Maybe not Dragon's Dogma 2 levels because that seems ridiculous, but still pretty significant. Best gamer in the world, nice CM Punk profile picture, asks, how is the open world? Is exploration fun and rewarding? The open world looks nice. There's a lot of enemy camps regularly throughout the open world, so I feel like you're doing a lot. In terms of rewarding, I think it's rewarding to level up the different kind of regions by doing favors for people in that region, but I've not really found any big secrets or anything like that. Or, oh, that's not true actually. I did drop down into a random cave like an hour in and found an enemy that I probably wasn't supposed to get to for a long time, so that was cool. So yeah, it seems like there is that stuff in it. Tosh Mackins asks, character creation, is it gender locked in any way because of the siblings thing? Is the player character voiced or silent? Not sure on the gender locked thing. I went for a guy and a girl. And the player character, you select a voice, but it's a lot more it's for like vocal grunts. It's for going like when you're in cutscenes and stuff, your character's silent. Yuri P, how does the co-op work? We have very little information about it and would love to know what you can do. If other players appear in cutscenes or anything you can talk about, that will be covered in the review. We cannot talk about co-op at the moment. Gamer Up asks, I loved Nioh 1 and Nioh 2, incredible games in my opinion. After playing lots of the Souls games, the Nioh games and PlayStation were the best ones that can compare to the Souls series. I have to ask this, is Rise of the Ronin better than the Nioh games in your opinion? Remember, this preview is based off of around 2 to 3 hours of the start of the game. I'm enjoying it so far. I would say if you're comparing the first 2 or 3 hours of all 3 games, it's pretty good. I'd say it's in the Nioh 2 range. Nioh 1's fine, but it's not aged particularly well. Zolington, is it a completely open world game, or is it like Nioh where you're selecting missions on a map? Similarly, does the game have the same loot system as Nioh or something else entirely? I answered the second one earlier on, loot system, but yes, it's a completely open world game. You're not selecting like a mission area and dropping into that like Nioh. It's fully open world. GGU asks, how does it handle the more RPG elements? Because I know it's not focused on loot and skill trees like Nioh. Also, how immersive does the setting feel, even though it's a mix of fantasy genre here and there? So first question, it does have like a full skill tree system. It's interesting. You earn like a few different types of skill points. So there will be some skill points that you earn through doing missions. Say you resolve a mission without fighting, you'll get like a skill point that's based on intellect, and that will unlock a skill that can't be unlocked by the skill points you earn from just killing people. So that stuff's interesting, although it seems like it's really easy to get a lot of skill points. How immersive is the setting? It's good in terms of it's very visually it's visually interesting from an art perspective, even if graphically it's not amazing. I still think I would give Tsushima the edge in terms of how immersive it is, but that's like a crazy Sony blockbuster game. It's not the same kind of budgeted game. Jay asks, how are the graphics in person? Not stellar. There are 3 options. You can prioritize graphics, frame rate, or ray tracing. And obviously it's a Team Ninja game, so if you're not picking ray tracing, you're not doing it properly. And I don't think it looks great. Goons Games and Gear asks, can I play as Virgil, the cooler twin brother of Dante from the hit series Devil May Cry? I bet you could make a very good Virgil pretty easily. Tiago Mello, how's the story so far? I think the opening mission is really cool. The opening 2 missions, like the tutorial and the first mission. Essentially, there's a tutorial mission where you're in training, and then you do your first mission post-training when all this stuff goes down. I think those 2 are very cool. Since then, it's not been amazing. And that's it. Thank you very much for all your questions. That is our preview of Rise of the Ronin. If you want to find out what the final game is like, you can come back for our review of Rise of the Ronin on the 21st of March at 11 AM UK time. Until then, remember to subscribe to VGC. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you later.